Hey everybody, welcome to this week's live stream. Hope you're all doing good today. I'm hanging in there. It's not too hot. Well, actually looking at the clock or the temperature, it is kind of hot in here, but I'm not feeling that hot, so it's good. It's a good day. So anyway, today what we're gonna do is we're gonna cast vertical pen blanks. This isn't anything new or anything super exciting, but I thought this is a pretty good time to kind of cover this because, you can go down to the hardware store. You don't even have to buy, clear. These are kind of expensive, the clear PVC. You can just go buy some, white PVC pipe. You can get a whole 10-foot length of it for pretty cheap and use these for molds. And, with everything that's going on with the economy right now, I thought, hey, let's cover a couple of budget things and then let's explore some different techniques on how to do this. This isn't the same thing, if you've been like me, if you usually pour into a brick mold like this, there's a little bit of a difference when you're pouring into a vertical tube, and things can turn out a little bit different, and you can get worse results because you're fighting gravity. That's one of the reasons why I stick with these usually. But if you're going to pour a brick of blanks, the problem is, so let me actually go get a thing here. Should have had this ready. The problem is, so okay, great, you pull this out, and then at this point you got to cut this. And for me, I sell these blanks. For me, I'm going to be cutting each blank out, and I'm going to get 6 blanks out of this brick, but I'm going to make 4 cuts per blank. I'm going to cut each side of that thing. That's a lot of wasted resin, basically. And then in the end, you've got a square blank where, the corners are, again, wasted resin. You're going to turn that onto the ground. So, the alternative is you can go for something round. And that way you don't have the corner issue. You can get going with the turning quicker. That's, in the title, save time and money. You can start turning a round blank a lot faster. You don't have to, mess around with the corners. And I mean, I don't know anybody that really loves knocking corners off of blanks anyway. It's just not particularly fun. But the only thing is you're going to get a slightly different look. You can get kind of a little bit of a different swirl pattern when you're pouring horizontally, we'll call this. But I thought it would be a pretty cool thing to kind of cover today. And I'm actually, what kind of spurred this on is we just did the redo, the Think Pink pen blanks. So we came up with, we did a little bit of an experiment trying to do a couple different colors, some different mica powders, to try and come up with and kind of, let's say, upgrade the Think Pink blank that I had, which was just dye colors. They were just, plain dyed colors, so kind of like the flat colors, not pearly. And I thought, I think I want to upgrade this and get it, a little bit nicer looking, let's say. This blank is for, I came up with this idea with the pink and white for breast cancer awareness, years ago. So we made this, and I got a color combination that I really like. And then I started kind of thinking about it. One of the issues that you have with, if you're just going to make the square blanks and they're like, 5-inch blanks, those aren't particularly good if you want to make a kitless pen. This is another thing that I've been thinking about. So lots of different things going on in my brain about doing, the vertical casting. But for some of my blanks, the ones that are made with alumilite clear, so none of the team color blanks, but down the road, I think that I want to convert all of my alumilite clears, so the ones that are pearly like this, I want to convert them into, vertical pour, so round blanks. And part of the reason is I can offer, a 5 or 6 inch long blank for people that are just doing kit pens. But if you want to do bespoke pens or the kitless pens, I can make them in 10 or 12 inch lengths. Something that, I never make those with the square blanks. I would have to make a new mold. I'd have to, cast it in the pressure pot on the pressure pot on its side in one of the big pressure pots, the 5 gallons. It's just not particularly easy to do. But vertically, you can get a really long PVC pipe, pour it in there, and then just, drop it into your either 5 gallon or depending on the length. One thing that's actually nice about the California Air Tools or even a Harbor Freight, but just having this sitting here, this one's actually a little bit taller than the CA Technologies pot, so I can fit a slightly taller PVC pipe. I don't know how tall, but probably somewhere in the range of like 9 inches or so, I think is what you can fit. So there's a lot of reasons to do it vertically. Like I said, cost savings, molds, even. You can buy a silicone mold. These are kind of expensive. You can make your own HDPE molds. Again, not particularly cheap, and you can even buy HDPE, but they aren't necessarily the cheapest thing out there. And if you make your own, that's a time cost, and you have to have certain tools to be able to do that even. So, a little bit of savings and a little bit of time savings as well. And a few more options, I think, kind of make, the vertical pour something that I think a lot of people would be interested in. So today what we're going to do is we're going to play around with, we're going to use the pink and white. All right. And this is also going to be kind of a skill builder. I'm going to show you what I would do. So if I wasn't doing this live stream or doing a video, this is what I would do to try to learn, what type of technique do I want to use to get a certain type of blank look. All right, so there's different things. You can pour things slightly differently and do different, let's call them techniques, to get slightly different results. All right, so number one, we got a couple different molds. All right, and again, silicone molds are going to be a little bit more expensive, but I thought, hey, I got some. Let's play with these. I got 2 of those. They'll make 6 blanks each. And then I also have, just the regular PVC pipes. I got 7 of these guys. So we'll do 3 sets of blanks, let's say. We're going to do 3 different types of techniques, all right? And what we're going to do is we're going to try not stirring it. This is one of the, this is one thing that people that do these pours, you can stir your, use it like a stick of some sort or like a, whatever. Go in there and kind of, move it around, all right? And that'll give you a little bit of you can kind of swirl up your colors. We can try, one thing that I wanted to kind of try is let's just try pouring into this mold with the mold on on an angle the whole time, all right? So we can just see what happens with that. And then we can do one where we don't even, we don't stir it or do any, messing around with it inside. So lots of different things that we can do. I think it'll be kind of fun, and hopefully, it'll be helpful for people watching to kind of get some ideas. You don't necessarily have to do all of these things. But, this is the type of thing that I would do to try and hone in how am I going to make blanks. And I got to be honest, I am not particularly good at doing vertical blanks. I haven't spent much time messing with it, because the one advantage that you have doing horizontal, number one, you're going to get a slightly different swirl pattern. Pouring vertically, the swirls kind of go vertically a little bit more, right? Whereas you can get kind of, I don't know, I don't even know how to really explain it, but you can get kind of a different type of a swirl pattern pouring it into a shallow trough like this. But the other big advantage, and this is the reason why I never really spent a lot of time honing my skills vertically, is because when you're done with this, you can cut these things up and you can see on the inside exactly what you got going on in there, right? Just by cutting into the blank. You don't have to turn the blank to necessarily see what the results are. That is the one drawback, I would say, that vertical pours, I have no clue what this is going to look like turned. The outside, so all we can see is whatever resin was on the outside of the tube. Whatever covered the edges is what you see, but the inside may be all swirled up. I just don't know. And the only way to figure that out is to turn this thing. So, it adds a little bit more time to kind of understand what am I getting by doing different types of techniques. And that's one of the reasons why I never really got into it. I spent a lot of time, practicing and doing multiple pours this way, but I could kind of skip that step of having to turn every single batch, because once I cut it up, I understood, I could see what I got basically. So I always kind of shied away from doing this, but like I said, right now I think that there's some advantages to doing vertical, and I think that one of my big things is I've never offered blanks to people for bespoke turning, for bespoke pens or kitless pens. I've just always focused on kit pens, and from a business perspective, I'm missing out on an entire segment of, pen turners out there. And the advantage for me that I'm seeing, and we'll see how this goes, I don't know. I only have, like maybe a handful of blanks that are made with slow set clear or clear resin in general. Most of the pen blanks that I sell are either, things like 3D print things or something totally different that has nothing to do with like color swirls. Or they're the team color blanks, and I'm not even going to mess with those. I'm going to keep doing them square. I got that technique down. And the other problem I have is I use alumilite white for that, and I think pouring that with dye in it into a vertical pen blank or vertical tube mold, I don't think that's going to turn out particularly well. I think I'm going to get a lot more color bleed. That is one other advantage, is you're not really, again, gravity is on your side with a horizontal pour, so you can be a little bit more controlled about things. And when it comes to dyes, those are generally the worst for color bleed. And I would rather just keep my recipe. I'm very happy with my team color blanks, but I don't think that there's going to be a big significant difference in the look also with, doing, color swirl mica powder pen blanks. So that's kind of one of the driving factors for me. I just wanted to kind of explain that. So without talking anymore, first thing I want to do is, so what I did was I cut up a bunch of pipes. These things are about 7 inches long, I think. Let me go and get a tape measure. Doesn't really matter. Cut it to whatever length that you need. I cut these, they're about 7 1/4. The big consideration though is whatever the final result, the blank that you want in the end, whatever length that is, I would probably add a good 1/2 inch. So when you're calculating how long does my pipe need to be, figure, okay, I want to make a 6-inch blank. Let's say I'm going to pour 6 1/2. That way you can cut off ends if there's anything kind of funky on the ends. But the other thing you got to factor in is your plugs. All right. So when I put one of these guys in, right off the bat, you're going to have another 1/2 inch that's just gone from your pipe, right? So always make sure to factor in your plugs. So whatever the blank length is, I would probably just go another inch or so. And you can even go higher than that. The big thing is if you're going to be using white PVC pipes and you're going and you cut them really long, but you're only pouring like a 6-inch blank and you got a bunch of them, it's really difficult to tell how far you poured. That's the only thing, in a white one. At least you could mark these and that way you don't overfill, one pipe and screw one up and then not have enough in another. So what I usually do is just make them, in this case, I want to make some 6-inch blanks. They're about 7 inches long. All right. Now, the other thing that you want to do to preserve your plugs is make sure to knock down, once you cut these things, there's going to be a pretty sharp edge on the insides of these things, and it can really damage your plugs. Let me see if I can find a good example of one. Here's one. Let's go for the overhead view. So you can see that this thing's getting kind of funky on the ends, and the only reason that should happen, or the reason that happened, is because it got cut basically when I was pushing the plug in on pipes. I didn't round it over, let's say. So you can just take some sandpaper, or I take a file, one of those kind of curved files, and just kind of, knock that down so that it's nice and smooth when I put my plugs in. All right, so first step though, we got brand new PVC pipes, and we need to coat these things real well with some stoner, with some mold release agent of some sort. All right. So I'm gonna kind of reset the camera over here so you can maybe kind of see what I'm doing. Really need to get a wider angle lens on this thing. Let me stop and see if anybody's got any questions. Let's see what's going on here. David's from Austin, Texas. One of my best friends lives in Austin. It's a fun city. That's cool. David, you're getting into, so David Zinman is getting into bespoke pen making. Yeah, so, and this is good for people that want to get into it. This is how you're going to need to make your stuff. Now, actually, one thing that I do want to mention, one thing that I need to mention, and I got to be honest, I don't really know, I I don't know how big of a factor this is. Like if you wanted to start selling these, and this is a question that I'm going to have to figure out, but if you wanted to start selling bespoke pen blanks, here's the problem. When you go buy 3/4 inch PVC pipe, the inside diameter is not 0.75, it's 0.815 or so. All right, and the reason that this matters is most people, well, I don't know if, I think most people, but most of the people that I've seen anyway, and I'm not a big bespoke pen maker. I've made like 2. I think they're amazing, and if I was going to just get into and focus on pen making, that's probably what I would do just because I'm interested in the process. But here's the problem is a lot of people use collet chucks, and the 0.815 diameter of this is not going to fit in a 3/4, a 0.75 collet, and most people have the ER32 chuck. 0.75 is the largest collet you can get for this chuck. Okay, so there is a problem possibly with using PVC pipes for bespoke pens. And I want to point that out. I don't know how big a deal this is, because if you're doing bespoke pens, you know, you may have an ER40 chuck, which can go up to like a 1.5 inch collet. All right, so it's going to depend on what size collet or what type of collet you have. And all that stuff. Now the alternative is you can chuck this up in like a drill chuck, drill jaws, and do your work that way. I think that a collet is a more accurate way of doing it. Or you could chuck it up into something else and turn it down first, just a little bit, just, you know, kind of true it up, and then put it in your ER32, the 0.75 collet, and you'd be fine. All right, so, but the thing is, if you're going to sell these things, I don't know how big a deal it is if you're saying, okay, I'm selling 3/4 inch pen blanks, but they're really 0.815. That's something that I would need to find out before I start selling these. Now, these silicone molds are 0.75, and you can make your own silicone molds if you wanted to. A good way to do that is you can, if you don't have the 3/4 inch, you know, thing that you're going to actually mold around, acrylic rod is accurate, 0.75. So you can do that. I know that I was actually talking to Nikki the other day. That's what she used, so I wanted to pass that on. But there's a couple of considerations here, and for kit pens, it doesn't matter. All right, and so we're going to do a couple different things. But the point is, you know, you need something vertical to pour into. Let's see here. Let me scroll a little bit and see what's going on. See if I can catch any. You love the tan? Is there a tan line going on? My watch? Is that what you mean? Maybe? Yeah, I wear this. I walk every morning. Oh yeah, the shirt. Okay, so before we even begin, I know I've been talking forever. So there is a little bit of a fundraiser going on. If you haven't heard of Vet's Turn, it's a really awesome organization. This shirt is something that Easy Wood Tools is making and they're selling. It's a really, really cool shirt. It's got some stuff on the back, but if you can see, these are all, you know, turning tools. So really cool shirt, and it's actually a really nice shirt for summer. It's a little bit on the thinner side, but still good material. Like I really like this thing, and it's nice in the shop when it's 85 degrees. But anyway, they're selling these shirts. 100% of the proceeds go to Vet's Turn. And if you don't know what that is, it's basically an organization that fully, you know, all the tools and supplies and all the stuff that you need, including like education even, you know, people helping out. You basically, Vet's Turn provides combat veterans that have, you know, either PTSD or injuries. They provide them an entire turning setup, everything you need, including instruction, to get into turning for kind of therapy. It's basically using wood turning as therapy is the idea. And it's been helping a ton of people out. It's a really awesome organization. And, you know, being turners, I mean, this is like one of the best organizations for that I know of, you know, that's within the turning community. So let me put a link up. There's a link in the description already. If you want to grab one of these shirts, though, like I said, 100% of the proceeds go to Vet's Turn, Vet's Turn, and you get a really cool shirt as well. So I think it's a really cool thing. Again, big thank you to Easy Wood Tools for setting this up. Again, they're making these shirts, and 100% of the proceeds are going to Vets Turn. They also provide turning tools for the packages for people. So lots of people are involved with it. There's a lot of people kind of helping out with it. I'm not necessarily directly helping. Easy Wood Tools, asked me if I would like to help kind of promote the t-shirts, and I was like, heck yeah. So down the road, I think, and so these are good. You can buy these. There's kind of a short term. Let's see, how long are these good for? August 22nd. All right, so they're going to be taking orders through August 22nd. So there is a little bit of you kind of need to get on it if you're going to do it. But I think before that date is up, I'm going to try and put together like a box of blanks that I can auction off, and proceeds go to Vets Turn. I think that would be pretty cool. So be looking for that. I'm going to kind of put something together. I will probably do it on Instagram, I think. But I will definitely mention it. I might even do a specific, like a video on its own about that on YouTube so that people know. But anyway, like I said, t-shirts, really cool t-shirts. I really like this thing. It's very comfy, looks good, and it's going to a good cause. So if you want to grab one, you can use that link, like I said, and there's a link down in the description. Nice. Yeah, that's cool, Karen. Scuba diving would be a good one too. Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. It's such a, turning is so peaceful, I think, well, unless things are flying off the lathe or something like that. But for the most part, I mean, you can just kind of get entranced in doing stuff. When I was doing that raffle ticket bowl, it's just so, you're just taking a cut, and like even like the sanding can just be very therapeutic, for anybody. But I think this is it's just such a cool organization, that's turned to be able to help people out with turning. It just amazing. I think it's so cool. You got yours coming? Nice, sweet. Okay, so with all that said, sorry about all the talk. Less talky, more action. Okay, so I'm going to switch camera views. We're going to spray up these pipes. We're going to go with the pipes first since I got them out. Now you can heat these molds up if you want. Especially like in the winter when it's a little cooler in the shop. I would say it's probably a good idea to heat these things up. I don't think it's fully necessary. A lot of the heating thing, when I say to heat molds, one of the problems is, if you have sharp corners, especially corners that aren't like fully sealed, what can happen is the resin can kind of pull away from there because it's cooler in that corner than the rest of the mold. And so that's why we heat up molds a lot of the time. Silicone molds are a good thing to heat up just for the same reason. It'll kind of let the resin lay flat a little bit. But to be honest, I always heat these, and I want to do a little bit of an experiment also and just see if you really need to heat these things up, especially when it's 85 in the shop. I don't think it's really necessary, but we'll see. One thing I do want to mention about these silicone molds before we begin, these things are really cool. There's zero chance of you getting a blank stuck in one of these. There's a little chance if you don't do a good job with the mold release, you could get your blank stuck in a PVC pipe. But to demold these, all you're going to do is grab your air hose hooked up to the air, I just want to make sure that I don't confuse anybody. So you grab your air hose, and let's say that these things were full, we're demolding them, and all you got to do is just put the air hose in there, shoot it in, and the blank will go flying out. But I have to give you a big warning. These things will hit a 10-foot ceiling. All right, so I mean, it's a projectile. All right, so do not do that with this thing facing you. Do not do it with it facing other people or pets or anything like that. Make sure that you're aiming the top of the mold somewhere safe, because it's going to go shooting out. Maybe even put up like a towel. Or if you're really into having a lot of fun, set up like a bullseye or something like that and see how many bullseyes you can get, because it's really a fun activity. I think honestly we should have Olympic Games shooting bespoke, or I should say just round pen blanks out of the molds and see who can do the best. But I wanted to mention that. And then demolding the PVC pipes, I just have a 3/4 inch dowel and I just kind of pop them out. But if you've done a good job with the mold release, they'll come out no problem. I will say that I usually wait like overnight, even with alumilite clear slow, just to make sure that the resin's going to shrink a little bit. And there's always like little bits that are kind of, you have a little tiny bit that's either on the top or the bottom that takes a little bit longer to fully cure, and it can be a little sticky. So I just wait overnight before I try to demold them, and they work just fine. So let's switch camera views. This one. And I got some stoner. I don't know if I'm on camera or not. Let's turn this thing around so I can see if I'm on. There we go. Okay. And I always like to shoot this the mold release into like the corner somewhere away from where things that I may want to cast later. Like I'm not covering it with mold release. So I go from one end, give it a good amount, and then I come back from the other end just to make sure I'm getting those two ends, and then in the middle, and that should be pretty good. I recommend definitely on the first time you're using a, like on a brand new pipe, definitely, give it a good coating. It doesn't need to be literally dripping out, but make sure you've gotten the surface coated well, and that'll help eliminate, the problem of, because a few people have kind of mentioned they've been having issues getting their pen blanks out. And you really shouldn't have that problem. It's shouldn't be happening if you've used mold release. And I use the purple Stoner brand. I know, Stoner. Who came up with that name? And it works for this is what you're going to want for the alumilite clear slow, but it works for epoxy just fine too. So it's what I use for everything. And of course, Turner's Warehouse has it. You can pick it up from them. I just ordered 2 cans of it actually. And I think the post office didn't like the drawing on it because it took like a week to get here, and it went to like New Mexico first, and I don't know. Like I said, you don't need clear PVC. That's not something that's needed, necessary. It is helpful. It can kind of help, especially if you're doing like what we're doing, some kind of testing. It'll kind of let you see a little bit of what's going on as it's going down in there. But I mean, there's really no need to do it once you've gotten a technique down. And of course, we can't see into these things at all anyway. So depending on what you're doing, you may or may not be able to see in there. If you do want to pick up the clear PVC pipes, I have links on my tools I use page on my website. I don't think there's not one in the, I don't have one in the description. So just head over to my tools I use page. I'll get a link for you guys right now on my website. Of course, my website's resinworksstudio.com. Where are we at here? There we go. I wouldn't necessarily recommend Vaseline. You don't necessarily. I would go with something that's made for resin. That's my recommendation. I'm sure it'll work, but I don't know. I think coating a pipe with Vaseline would be not particularly fun anyway. I think a spray is a better option in that case. But I always, like I said, you'd have to try it out. But I always recommend people just go with something that was actually made for resin. I need to kind of do a little bit of work on this mold here. I've got resin stuck to the side. The problem with using random stuff is you really don't necessarily know how it's going to react with the resin. That's your biggest problem, if it will react or not. So I would recommend, don't pour 6 blanks if you're testing it out. Pour like 1 and just see how it works. If there's any problems, then get a little bit bolder. All right, now my pipe will fit in there. Where's my other pipe? There it is. How many do we have? 1, 2, 3. I guess we're doing 6. I thought I had 7 of these things. Oh, here it is. I'm okay. Did I spray this one? I don't think I sprayed this one. Looks like I sprayed it. I don't know. Just to make sure, I'm going to give it another. Yeah, I think I sprayed it. I'm going to give it another shot and we are ready. Okay, so let's get all this junk out of the way. So I think what we'll do is on this round, I'm not sure exactly how I want to do this. We're not going to tilt these. We're going to pour them straight down in. And I think what we're going to do is not do any swirling in this round. We're just going to dump it in and see what happens, kind of thing. Now, even with some of these techniques, there's also some kind of like, there's timing issues that, you know, that can change. If you don't want your colors to bleed, then you need to wait till the, like, you know, near the end of the working time. When the resin's going to start thickening up a little bit, then you want to pour. So with the temperature being 85 degrees in my shop right now, with alumilite clear slow, let me hold this the right way. There we go. With this resin, and this is only with this resin, other resins may vary, but I use temperature to tell me when to start pouring. You could use time, but that's a really tough thing to guess when you're, you know, pouring things in and stirring it. This is going to be pretty consistent. So you're going to mix up your resin and then check the temperature of it. And as it starts curing, it gets hotter. All right, and so that's why we can use this temperature gauge. And so that's just an infrared thermometer. But what I'm going to be doing is I'll probably pour at about 125 degrees Fahrenheit, somewhere in that vicinity. Somewhere between like 120 and 130 seems to be working fairly well for me right now. In the winter, when it's cooler, I will pour at like about 100. All right, so the temperature, in the ambient temperature, does affect this, and the reason for that is this stuff is super thin viscosity right now. But when it's, you know, only 68 degrees in the shop, liquids thicken up when it gets cooler, and this stuff is much thicker to start with, and so I don't have to wait as long, basically. All right. So a couple little thoughts there, and you know, the results that you get will be affected by how, you know, what temperature or how long you wait. That is one of the factors, okay? So again, in this test, we're going to do, again, we're doing the same colors on all 3 tests, okay? It's going to be the pink and the white. We're going to see which method I like best overall, and which one I'm going to go with if I decide to do this for my blanks. So first things first, we're going to get some gloves on. Let me stop and pour it a bit too thick. Yeah, so if you wait too long, I mean, it could like literally set up, like turn solid on you while you're pouring. I've had that happen. We call those popsicle blanks because it looks like a popsicle on your stick. And if you wait too long, it may just be too thick and you may trap air bubbles. Even if you get it in the pressure pot, it just may be too late. So there is a little bit of, you may have to kind of play around with stuff in your shop. You know, with the temperature, like I said, and the resin you're using, things can change. And even I think humidity could possibly cause some, you know, changes, to be, made in some cases. If it's like super high humidity, it may actually set up on you a little bit faster, possibly. I don't know for sure because we have pretty much no humidity in Nevada, so it's just not a factor for me. Okay, so we're getting our little book out here. Today is 8/3. We're doing vertical tests, we'll call it. So number 1, no stir. We're just going to pour it in and move on with our lives. And we're doing the Think Pink. We're doing, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 tubes. And we're using slow set clear. Now, I don't know how much I'm going to need. I think that I need about, I think I'm going to estimate about 80 grams per tube. I think that might be a little bit more than I need, but if I have a little bit of extra, then we can dump it into the Happy Fun Cup, so no loss there. I don't need 7 of these, so we're going to actually pull one of these. We're going to go six of each. All right. 6 tubes, 80 times 6. So it's about 480 grams total. And then alumilite clear slow is a 1-to-1 mix ratio. I'm going to have to add some resin to my jugs there. So I can just do 240 times 2. 240 grams of part A, 240 grams of part B. And then we're going to split it into two colors. And I think we're just going to 50-50 this. I don't know. Let me think about this a little bit. Yeah, I think we're just going to 50-50. 50% pink, 50% white, which means we're going to have 240 grams of each color in the end. And for the pink, what I figured out after we did our tests is the fuchsia pink from P-Town Subby is my favorite. I like that the best. So I bought a big tub of it because I knew that I was going to need it. Yeah. If you want a super chat to tell me pink and white, we're taking super chats as we go, but the only answer you can give me is pink and white. But of course, we definitely appreciate super chats. If you're enjoying the content, feel free to super chat. Keep the lights on around here, you know? So I like to use smaller jars. I like to move it into, these like kind of smaller ones and work out of that. I don't know, just so that if I like spilled resin in the thing for some, somehow something happened and that got contaminated, I haven't lost, however much mica powder is in that tub. All right, we're getting set here. We're gonna do some resin casting eventually, I promise. Okay, so fuchsia pink. And let's see here. I don't even know how much was I using? I have other notes. Hold on, guys. There it is. Okay, so I was using about 1 teaspoon for 320. So I think probably don't even need a full teaspoon. Probably like 3/4. Let me just see here. 1, 2, 330. Yeah, about 3/4 teaspoon. Ought to do it, I think. Man, I'll tell you what. Fuchsia is the most messed up, like trying to spell this. It's so weird. I always have to look at it. Fuchsia. That is a word that I never learned how to spell. So anyway, Could have just called it awesome pink or something. And then we'll use the eye candy Sheeta. I don't know. However you say that one. And we don't need as much for that. Let's go with hold on real quick. I just want to look at some notes here. Yeah, I was using probably using about the same. We'll go with 3/4 teaspoon on that too. Should be good. Now, you could add a little bit of white dye to this if you wanted, but be careful with that because white dye is heavy, and it can kind of cause that to be a heavier thing and kind of go down to the bottom of your mold. You don't like sinky dyes are not so much fun. Okay, so we are ready to start casting. What do you guys think? I'm going to get me a new cup here. Well, an old cup. Oldie but a goodie. Oh, we had dye. I really, really love dyes. They just tend to get everywhere. Oh man, so I started shaking up a dye. All right, guys, I got to show you. Oh, wouldn't it be nice? Thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it. So I was opening up a brand new, so it was the Shark Gray. And it was brand new. All right, so I pick it up and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna shake this. And so I'm walking around shaking it right here like this, hard. Because like I said, brand new, I wanted to make sure what happens with these dyes is the pigments settle to the bottom. So you wanna, shake it up and get it all, combined with the liquid stuff. So I'm walking around the shop shaking this thing and I'm feeling like something. I was like, I don't know if I'm sweating or what's going on. Then I realize I come back over here and there's gray dye blobs flying everywhere. It was brand new. They seal the top, but the top was like open slightly and I'm just shaking dye all over my face. And I was like, oh my God, why does this, at this point, every time I shake one of these things, I am grabbing a paper towel and I'm going to cover the whole thing because I tend to get it everywhere in my shop when I'm using dyes. I really wish that they would all just go back to this bottle. You can't shake it and get dye all over yourself and everything when there's a cap on the stupid thing. But the problem is the problem with these bottles is these lid things, these tips, can come out if you have a thick dye. They pop out, and so there's issues that way. But as long as you understand that can happen, then nothing else goes wrong with those ones. Telling you guys, dyes and me. Mark, thanks for the super chat. I appreciate it. You guys are. It was a shameless plug. I will say that I did a shameless plug, but you guys are stepping it up. I really appreciate the support. All right, so we're going to zero this guy out. And let's get some alumilite clear slow going. So 240 grams of part A. I'm starting to get used to, so I used to use pumps. There's like a pump thing. And I really like those because I did it for like 8 years or 10 or something. I was very used to it. I had things down. I could sneak up on, small amounts very easily. That's why I liked it that way. But I finally got tired of it because they came out with like a different, like the pump that they used to have, they didn't have anymore. And the new one leaked all over the place. It was useless. And in the part B with alumilite clear slow, it can clog up eventually. So I don't like that. And so I would just pay for, and these things were like, the pumps were like $12, I think. So they weren't cheap in the first place, and then you're gonna replace them all the time. So I decided, okay, I don't think it's very smart using these things. But you kind of have to get used to, sneaking up on things and doing it this way. And I think I'm to the point where I'm comfortable with this. I think I like the one thing that I don't like though is you really got to be careful with the cap on the part B. It's the same issue that you had with the pumps. But I always wipe off before I put it back on. I wipe everything, and I just barely seal it. I don't, otherwise it gets stuck on there, and I don't like that. Stefan, how's it going? Ah, yes, CJ, you definitely can make them transparent. That's true. You also had an issue with, I know, I'm telling you, I am the worst with dyes. I mean, they're everywhere in my shop. Well, okay, so I have evidence. Here, let me show you the evidence of the ridiculousness. I don't know if you can really see all these little things everywhere. This was just this thing. I mean, it was literally everywhere on, oh, what just happened? That's my thing. Okay. Yeah, so it was flinging gray dye everywhere. And the problem with that is then you stick your hand in it somewhere and then it's on your clothes. I'm telling you. And the other problem I have is, so, okay, do I wash? What do you do with the shirt that has dye all over it? Like, I don't really want to put that in the laundry with anything else. You know, I don't even want to put it in the washing machine. I don't know. It's a tough question. Are all the plugs in? Ah, good question. I'm looking here, so they're all red. We're in the red, guys. I need to do a short of that. Oh man. Yeah, Joker colors. Actually, that's one of the blanks that I have too. That would be converted if I did this going forward. Which I really think I'm gonna do this. I want to get my technique nailed down to where I'm making, you know, good looking blanks every time. It's gonna take a while though for me to you know, pour and test and do all that kind of stuff. But I think it'll be worth it because I think it's time, you know, do something a little different, switch it up a little bit, offer some more people that do the kitless pens some blanks too, you know. Okay, so that should be mixed up well enough. I'm gonna get a cup. Now, here's one little technique. We're gonna start out with a technique, okay guys? This is what we're gonna do on this one. Maybe. So, well, actually, it's not going to work on this one. Never mind. We're not doing this technique. The way that I have this set up with these pipes all, you know, separate, you can't just like kind of pour at will. Like you have to get it into that tube. Now, one thing that you could do that can kind of help you hit the, without pouring it all over the place, basically, that's my issue with this. One thing that you could do, I don't know if this is going to work or not. I just thought of it. These stay in there? Not really. Kinda. You could modify your pipes. So these are just those little water cup, you know, like the water cooler cups. You could snip the bottom of this thing and you could maybe like kind of tape these guys in place. And that would make it a little bit easier to you know, kind of swirl things in your tubes. I would rather, you don't need to do that. And I'd rather not have to tape cones to all my pipes every single time I do this. But it could make things a little bit easier. That's one little kind of tip that I'll share, you know, mention that I know of. Okay, so I'm going to zero that out. We're going to pour 240 grams into this cup. Oh yeah, I got to get some, I'm messing around too much. Talking, sharing tips. I got to get some mica powder in these things. Oh man. You don't have to be like super accurate necessarily, like 240 and 240 exactly. When you're dealing with like mica powders, it's not really that big of a deal. With dyes and you're trying to get like, you know, custom colors, you know, matched and stuff like that, then it becomes extremely important. Get out of the way, stick. So we're doing 3/4. This is a 1/4 teaspoon spoon thing. It doesn't have to be, again, mica powders, I kind of wing it. It's not like if you add a little bit of extra, it's going to change colors or anything. Like the hue is going to be the same. I usually overshoot if I write down 3/4, you know, 3/4 teaspoon in my notes. Typically, I will kind of overshoot that. It's just how I do things. What I would recommend is whatever you want to do, just do it consistently, you know, based on your notes and what you actually do, and you should be all right. Now, where you don't want to be is undering, you know, like putting less than what you wrote down, because what can happen is you could with pen blanks specifically, especially kit pen blanks, you may be able to see the tube if you don't have enough mica powder in there. So whatever you do, you know, go over if you're gonna deviate at all from whatever you wrote down. Make sure that it's more, not less. Okay. Goes off faster, yeah. Well, I usually don't really mess around like this when I'm just doing stuff. Where are we at here? So we're at 109. I'm going to pour it about 125 probably, maybe. Somewhere, like I said, somewhere between 120 and 130. Should be good. Now that can heavily alter the results that you get. How much the things kind of combine a little bit. You may get a little bit of bleed if you pour a little earlier. It's just gonna be thicker if you waited longer, so that's gonna sort of affect how it's going into the pipe and how it's creeping down the sides, right? If it's a little thinner, it's gonna kind of go a little faster. So, and there's no right or wrong way to do this. It's just gonna be, the thing is though, you're gonna have to just cast blanks to figure out your favorite technique, what works best for what type of result you want. Okay, so I just want to point that out. I mean, there's just no getting around doing the practice. Let's say we're at 116. Man, that feels really hot. Pretty thick already too. I have been pouring at 125, 130 already. I know that we're okay. Should be okay waiting that long. Yeah, I guess it is kind of a little bit on the thin side. We'll do 125. Well, I think we'll do 120 on these. One other thing to think about is depending on how many pipes you got, if in this case, like I said, I got to shoot and try and get into each one of these pipes, whereas you can kind of just dribble it all over the place on something like this. You may need to have a little bit of extra time because you're starting at 120, but by the time you get done messing with picking up a cup, picking up the other cup, doing all that, like I'll show you, it may be too late. Okay, so we're at 124. I got to get going. I'm just gonna dump, and you could try to do like 2 cups at a time. I find that I just get it everywhere but the pipe at that point. All right, so you can see this is going to take a while to fill each one of these guys up, right? But I wanted to do this and show you because I don't think that this is the way that I would do it. I would rather pour into like that mold, the P-Town Stubby silicone mold. I'd rather do it that way personally because I can just kind of do it quicker. I can even probably just pick up 2 cups at once, and we'll do that probably on the next one. But it may not produce the results that you want, so you got to kind of, you know. And I would probably say that, you know, some people were talking about liquid diamonds. So like your epoxies, will probably have a little bit what I call a longer gel period. All right, so that's like that state in which the resin is, you know, pourable but kind of thick. Like this. This is kind of the gel state right now. I mean, you may have a little bit longer gel period with a longer working time resin. The shorter the working time, the shorter the gel period generally. So hopefully that kind of made sense. And the deeper the pour, so like at the beginning when you start pouring, you're going to get more color bleed because it's thinner and it's dropping further. Like there's more gravity to kind of be able to mix things up a little bit more. And as you go on, you'll probably see in these things, there's a lot of separation now. So we're going to have to kind of play around with this stuff. This is why, you know, there's a technique to this. To get, you know, a specific type of look in your blanks. Now another thing that you can do is just pour one resin into the other. We call that a dirty pour. So you pour one cup into the other. Oh man, this is starting to get too thick. Tell you what, I like resin casting in the winter a lot better. I'm gonna fill that up. Ooh, man, that's thick. Okay, so I didn't really do a very good job of estimating. Ooh, that's bad. All right, I got to get this in the pressure pot, guys. Next time, we're gonna start at 120, I think. I think we'll be all right. I'm gonna have to show you the results later because these things are setting up on me. Ooh, that's thick. Thick and chunky, guys. Sorry. I'll have a little bit more time next time. We're gonna try to pour this. See, so this is like the dirty pour method. Oh, it's setting up. Oh. Yep. Set up. So that's what happens when you wait too long. It doesn't make it. I think we're okay. I think we got it in the pressure pot in time. On the blanks, but this is just a mess right here. Okay. So I want to stop and talk about what just happened here. Just a little bit. And see if anybody has any questions after that. So as you saw, you know, I ran out of time a little bit. I had to kind of hurry. Things were changing as I was going. And so I think what I need to do is I need to move my window down. If I was going to do the same type of setup, I would definitely need to start pouring at like 120 would have been maybe a better choice, maybe even like a little under that, just so that I had enough time. But you can see if you're doing a little bit and then a little bit and then a little bit, doing it like that, each one, you waste so much time trying to pour 5 or, you know, however many, six blanks, trying to get it into that hole. And this is one of the reasons why I've never really loved doing vertical pours, because that's how I would do it all the time. And it was more of a pain than anything, whereas it's a lot easier for me to do, you know, generally, I just had a technique down where I could do a horizontal pour. However, having said that, that's not to say that there's not a better way to do it to get better results, all right? That's why I want to do this, is I need to figure out, you know, how do you do it better? And I think that one of the first things that you can do is to get your pipes closer together like this. Now, I want to show you guys something. This is, you guys are, seriously, brains are going to explode, I think. And I got to give credit where credit's due. I actually got this from Chad Schimmel. What you can do is just grab a rubber band, and instead of have like this thing where they're all separated out and they're in this weird thing, just take your PVC pipes, put a rubber band around them a couple times. Chad makes things way the heck easier than I ever do, right? And so once you've actually, after the first pour, resin's going to seep down in the middle of this, and at this point it is totally solid. All right, so it's like, I call it the Gatling gun. And at this point, it's just much easier to pour if you're going to do it that way, where it's like 1 cup at a time. You're going to get much easier, quicker results. So big thank you to Chad for giving me that idea. He's like, why don't you just rubber band them together? That's what I do. I'm like, but I need a caddy, of course, you know, with them separated 3 inches. So either way, I think that, you know, one of these 2 methods is going to be good, is going to be better. And, you know, obviously that's what I poured those brown ones in, and it did work a lot better. Now on this next one, we're going to use, I don't want to use that one because I was kind of playing around with like bespoke length. But then I realized that 0.815 blanks may not be the smartest way to go, the PVC pipes. So I'm kind of slightly abandoning that right now, but we're going to go back to, we're going to go with these guys, and they're 6-inch tall, same thing that we did last time. And this time, what we're going to do for the technique, and this is a pretty cool one, all right? So if you have paper cups, compared to a plastic cup, if you try to squeeze this, I mean, you can do it, but a lot of times most people's plastic cups break, number one. And even if you were using one of these guys, they can bend a little bit, but with paper cups, you can get 2 cups in one hand and just pour them at the same time. All right, and I think that this is a pretty awesome technique. This is what we're going to do on the next one. We're gonna pour both at the same time and just kind of go around, you know, in a circle. What we're not going to have time to do, I'm not going to do a dirty pour where you wait, pour both of them in the same cup and then pour it out. I'm not going to do that. To be honest, in the past, I haven't really gotten amazing results doing that. So I'd rather try to find a different way to do it. Not to say that it's not a good way to do it. It's just I never got good results doing it that way. So I want to try the paper cup pour all at once method. And then on the last one, what I want to do is we're actually going to use stirring. All right, so there's a couple ways to do this. I want to see what the blanks turn out like if you're pouring both colors at the same time without stirring. All right, so that's a variant. You could also do it with both cups poured at the same time and stir it and see what that looks like. I don't want to do that today. What we're going to do though is you can use little sticks to just, once you've poured all your resin in, you put a stick down in and kind of just twist it around and pull it out. I'm going to take it a different step. I'm actually going to drop the tubes in. This will be the last one. I'm going to drop the stir sticks in first. I've never done this before. We're putting the sticks in first. We're going to pour the resin in and then just basically pull them up. Okay? But again, you could do it where you pour the resin in and then go into each individual thing, drop it down, kind of go around, or just drop it down and come up. There's so many different techniques to this that you could spend years basically messing around with it. Yeah, I've seen those sectioned off cups. I don't know. I think that they would be a total pain to clean. I've tried using silicone like mixing cups, and they were kind of a pain unless you clean them right away. I think that the paper cups is a pretty good way to go, but that is an option. There are sectioned cups that you can buy. I don't know that I want to mess with that personally. You can get a 13/16, call it? Huh. Yeah, that's a good question, Ken, or thing. Waxed cups you don't want, but I gotta be honest, I have never seen waxed cups. I mean, I'm guessing that it says waxed all over the place because I have never I've never even seen waxed cups for paper cups. To me, it almost seems like this was something that people talked about that I saw in forums like 10 years ago. And I swear it's like they don't even make paper or waxed cups. I don't know. But yeah, if you do somehow happen to find waxed cups, that's not what you want to use for resin. It can mess things up when you're stirring. If you scrape off some of that wax, you do not want that stuff in your resin. But like I said, I've honestly have never seen them before. Okay, so, and typically I would say to heat these up. I'm doing a little side experiment. I'm not even going to heat these things up, and I think it's going to turn out okay. However, I will say if it was, you know, winter time, I think I'd still warm these up. I think you're better off, but it's 86 degrees in my shop. I really don't think that it's going to affect anything with these. Yeah, maybe small bathroom cups. I don't even know why you would put wax in them in the first place. All right, so let's see here. Yeah, so Mark was talking about trying to do too thin of a layer at a time. That's, you know, and that's the thing is like I don't know what the answer is. All of these resin things, you know, you can talk about waiting till, you know, the right temperature and this and that, but the results you get are going to be dependent on what you do and how you do it, how much you pour at a time, all of those types of things. And so, you know, you kind of need to, we're doing what I would really recommend, and this is why I'm trying to do totally like relatively different types of techniques, and hopefully have you guys, you know, see how much am I pouring and how long are we waiting, how thick is the resin, and do it in really different ways. And on Saturday, what we're going to do is we're going to turn one of these blanks. I may not go through the entire process of making a pen out of these things, but I just want to turn these down and see what we get, right? So I may go for like longer. I may not even tube it. I may just, you know, between centers and just turn it down and then try to kind of, you know, wet it down with alcohol just so we can see what we're getting with these different methods. And the big thing is I'm going to need to make sure that I mark and I know which one was which. So I think actually, before I even begin, I think something that would be probably really smart. So it's going to be obvious which ones the PVC pipe ones are because they're in PVC pipes, but I'm going to actually wrap one of these molds with gaffer tape. Stuff is super sticky, just so that I can differentiate the two. Down the road. This is pretty fun though. I don't know if you guys are enjoying this or not, but I love this stuff. I love just, you know, seeing, you know, you can make slight adjustments basically. Now, nothing sticks to silicone, but this is not really going to go anywhere. That's why I grabbed that. But I love seeing, you know, with like slight changes, you can get totally different results with resin. It's so much fun. I love experimenting. I wish that money was no concern because I would just sit here and mix up blanks and see what happens all day long. So, but you know, what I want to do is try and like, and this is what I would recommend for you guys, is try totally different things. Try to radically change things, and then, you know, out of the radically different ones, which one was the best? And then try to like hone in on things and slightly make tweaks. That's the way to kind of get to what's the best method for what I'm looking for. Let's say that, you know, that first method, no stir, no nothing. We just dumped it in those tubes being separated. Let's say that was the best result we got. Maybe I would, the next time, try and just barely kind of tilt the tubes, which that's what we're going to do on this one also, I think. What was it was going to be, well, yeah, so I don't think we're going to do that because I've actually, all of the blanks that I poured before were done that way. So we're not going to do that today. We're going to do the 2-cup method in this one. But you know, you can just tilt your mold on its side and pour down one side, and that's going to change what the results are a little bit. So anyway, I just love talking about resin. Okay, so number 2, let's do this. What do you guys think? So one thing that I did not write down was the temperature. This is why it's really important to take notes. Luckily, I got a video, so I can always go back to this, but we poured at the last number that I checked, it was it was 124 Fahrenheit. And the other thing to write down is not only like what the temperature was of the resin. I highly recommend, if you're going to record this stuff, write down have a thermometer in your shop that you can see, and write down the temperature in the shop as well. I think it's important. That way you just understand, like, you know, it wasn't winter time, 68 degrees, and I waited until 130 degrees Fahrenheit to pour. Probably not going to work even at all, but you know, it's, I think, important to know that it was 86 degrees in the shop and I waited till 124. Okay, so I always write that down in my notes. All right, so let's go with overhead cam here. Here. Sorry, I was reading comments. Okay. So, number 2, that was number 1. Number 2 is going to be, we're going to do those stir things last. So, no stir. 2 cups, paper cups at same time. And we're going to do 6, we're doing the P-Town. Now these ones are 7/8 by 6 inches, which is slightly different, you know, just a tiny bit different than 3/4 inch. But I just want to mention that. I don't think it's going to really skew the results or anything like that, but I just want to let you guys know. And we're using slow set clear again. So these are bigger blanks. We're going to need a little bit more, but I still think that 80 is probably going to be enough because we had a lot of resin left over. So I'm going to go 80 times 6, which is 480. It's the same exact numbers as last time. 240 times 2. We're doing 50/50. Now, a lot of times I will slightly alter when I'm doing like pink and white. I usually have one color that's a little bit more than the other. In this case, we're just doing 50/50 with pink and white. So that can also kind of alter how things end up turning out. Having a little bit less of one color. The problem that I have is when you do it that way, you run out of one before the other. So it's really difficult to, you know, if you're doing, you know, back and forth like that, like you're going to have blanks that just don't have as much, you know, of one color or the other. So we're just doing 50/50 again on this one. I don't usually do it this way, so I'm kind of curious to see how this turns out. Okay, so this time I want to pour at, well, so this one's going to go a lot faster because I'm just going to dump it all over the place and just move the cups around. So I think that we can pour at 124 again or so, 125. And I think we're going to get kind of the same thing. You know, I think it's going to go better, let's say, because I'm not going to be doing this slow one thing at a time. Now, one thing that just occurred to me, the last time that on that last one, excuse me, I want to get an example here. So we got 2 tubes here, right? what I was doing was like pink, pink, put the cup down, pick up another cup, white, white. And I actually think what would have probably been smarter is to grab both cups, go pink, white, and fill a tube, then move on to the next tube. Okay? So we're already learning things. We're noticing things and learning things that we can try out. Now, again, the tough thing is, great, so I learned that, now we got to go back and try something else, right? Like that, you're not going to get around trying things. But eventually we are going to hone down and find a technique that really is killer. Like we're getting awesome results every time. Okay? So I got my 2 cups, I got my mold. I'm also going to write a note here, didn't heat mold. We're not going to heat the mold on both times. Okay, so let's get another cup. Just trying to get all the little fiddly bits out of there. All right. All right, let's see. I'm just missing. Nope, this is alumilite clear slow, 124. It's 86 degrees in the shop. I adjust when I pour because the problem is this stuff is liquid. It's like water thin sitting out on my counter at 86 degrees. And so you end up, to get the same result, pouring it like the same viscosity, you got to wait longer. So people always say, oh, the temperature for this resin is X. And that's great, that's true, if your ambient temperature in the shop is consistent all year round. Mine isn't. Mine's consistent about 3/4 of the year, or maybe even more than that. But I adjust things. When it's summertime, we don't have air conditioning in here, and so summertime, I pour at a much higher rate when I'm doing, color swirl stuff or trying to suspend things. Because the viscosity of the resin is thin for a lot longer as it's going through like the curing process, or the working time. So it's up to you how you do things, but if you want the same exact results, the same types of things going on, you're gonna have to adjust when you pour. So 240 grams of, oh, I went over. Shoot, that kind of sucks because this cup is dirty. I'm not going to pour it back in my jug. Okay, we're just going to go 244. 244 and 244. Got to remember that in my head. All right. '60s in the morning and '90s in the afternoon. Oh. You might not want to keep your resin in that type of thing if your temperatures are fluctuating that much. I would say that storage of resin is actually more affected by temperature swings. Like that's a 30-degree swing every single day. That's your resin's gonna go bad faster. I would imagine because of that. So you might want to put it somewhere where that doesn't happen. Resin is less affected by just sitting in 90-degree heat day after day. It's that change in temperature that's actually probably more, deteriorating to it. Just a little side note, just a suggestion. Extremes also, I wouldn't really recommend storing it in like temperatures above 90 necessarily. I think you're better off like room temperatures, getting closer to room temperature. It's 86 in my shop, and you're getting kind of to the top of where I would feel comfortable. And then well below, like, I wouldn't really want to store the resin too much below like 40 degrees Fahrenheit. Start approaching like the freezing mark, and that's not a really good idea. It's close to like room temperature, like 70, 72, 75. Somewhere between 70 and 80 is a really good, number for all that stuff. Okay, so we got that mixed up. We're gonna go with these paper cups this time. So 240 or so. Technically 244. Okay. This one should be the rest. One's going to be a little lower than the other one because we dumped it out and there's stuff sticking to the edges. Oops. Okay, so we got about 233.8, 243. I think we were like, it doesn't really matter, but I think we were at 238 is what the number was. Okay. That's good. That's good. I just wouldn't want your resin to go bad quick. Wasted resin is not a good thing. That's a sad day. How many castings will the silicone molds hold? I'm going to go with like hundreds, if not thousands. I don't have one silicone mold that I have had to like retire ever yet. Now, I'm using urethanes. Urethanes are, I typically use urethanes anyway. And they are not as hard on silicone molds as epoxies are. But this stuff is pretty durable. The P-Town blue ones, I mean, it's durable stuff, It should last you quite a while. So we're doing 3/4 teaspoon of pink or so, somewhere around there. I already explained that. You can go back and watch the first time I dumped some of this stuff in today if you want the explanation. No, I don't need to put that away. Where's the... We're doing that, and then we're doing the Sheeta from Eye Candy for the white. Long enough? I think I'm going to go with 2 of these longer sticks. So hopefully we'll have some answers after we've done these. I don't know. You bring resin back by putting it in hot water bath. Well, there's so if your resin gets thick, yeah, you can heat it up and it'll thin out. If your resin, there's a difference between thick resin and bad resin. Resin can go bad, and if it's not curing, it's bad. Or if it's yellowing, you know, if it's yellowed heavily. So it's got a, you know, fairly short shelf life. You know, I think the longest that I've ever seen any type of resin is like 12 months for like a shelf life. The key is you just need to make sure that it's operating as it should. You know, is it yellowing? Is it, you know, not curing at all? If that's happening, then your resin has probably gone bad. If it is like completely crystallized, it's probably not coming back, you know. But yeah, you can heat it up, and you don't need a warm water bath. You just need to warm it up somehow. Not the microwave, you know. But you can just put it on like a, you know, mild heating pad type thing, like a reptile heating type thing, and that will warm it up as well. I'm not a big fan of using water to heat up resin. I don't like water anywhere near my resin, so if there's other ways, I will try and find them. But yeah, you can use like a, you know, kind of double boiler type of deal. Okay, so let's see where we're at temperature wise. 116. So we're gonna wait till about 125 again. In this case, I don't want these stir sticks in here. Really? So I'm just gonna, I like to stir it up to get my temperature. So we're gonna get it pretty close, and then I'm gonna wipe these sticks off and get them out of there because I don't want them banging around when I'm pouring. Yeah, pool. I would get back in the pool. The pool sounds nice to me too. Thanks for joining the fun though, Jen. I appreciate it. Okay, so I think we're pretty close to the, yeah, 122. So I'm gonna get my sticks out of here, wipe them off. I don't really want the resin setting up on me on the sticks. I like to clean off the sticks and all that kind of stuff while the resin is still liquid. You can wait you know, until it like sets up, but I find it's not as easy as everybody makes it out to be to get it clean. And it degrades HDPE and stuff, so better off just wiping it off. Okay. So we're gonna give this a shot. I've never done this before actually, so I don't know. We're all learning stuff. All right, are you guys ready? I have to kind of turn around a little bit. Problem is these things are kind of, the two nozzles are a little bit far apart on these cups. I don't think that worked at all. I'm just making a general mess at this point. There we go. Oh, that one's full. Okay, so we got a mess, but you can see these colors are looking kind of cool. I don't know. That didn't start out too good at all though. It was a lot easier for me to get both of these cups kind of in my hands and like look over them. You know, like I was doing at the end. That seemed to be a lot easier for me. And I'm gonna put this on a, oh God. I'm gonna put this on an HDPE thing because I just made a giant mess. That way it won't stick or do anything weird in the bottom of my pressure pot. We'll have to see. I don't know. See, this is why I've always done horizontal casting, because if you couldn't tell, I suck at doing vertical. I'm not particularly good at this. But I want to learn. I want to get down, you know, I want to figure out how to do this and get good blanks. So that still may turn out okay. But that sure didn't start off too well. And the one thing is, you know, one way of doing things may work really well for you, and not good for others, for someone else, you know. So I just want to kind of reiterate that, you know, you may just, it's kind of like, you know, with the CA finish, there's so many ways to put a CA finish on a pen. And, you know, some people like using medium thickness, and some people like using thin and thick, and some people hate CA finishes. They'd rather go with, you know, something else. And so, you know, you need to find whatever works for the way that you work. You know, I think that finding the best thing that, you know, the easiest one for you and sticking with that and honing in on it, I think that's the way to do it. So it's always worth trying different things to see, you know, am I better at this? Because some people seem to struggle with certain things, and while others don't, you know, who knows? It was a hot pink mess. All right, Hugh, thanks for joining the fun. Have a good night. Yeah, I got the silicone mats on my tool. I'm pretty sure it's on my tools I use page. Under resin casting. Yeah, down at the bottom. Let's see if this works. I can maybe get you a link to it. The ones I use. Oh, that's. Here's a link to my tools I use page. I don't have a link in the description of this video. But if you're looking for those silicone mats, it's on that page at the bottom. One thing I don't like about summer is, so I was wearing those gloves and they had stuff all over them. And so I had to take them off because it was going to get everywhere. But trying to put on new gloves, my hands are all sweaty. So actually, these aren't too bad. But that's always my problem, like trying to switch gloves out. I'm like, ugh. All right, so that wasn't my favorite. That didn't go as well as I would have liked. Now, those cups specifically didn't bend as well as like some of the smaller cups. Like they had a pretty big rim around them. And I think, you know, you might be able to find other cups that work a little bit better, but the paper cups seem to work the best if you're going to be doing the squeeze method. And I want to mention that works pretty well for horizontal pours as well. You can just dump it around and you're doing everything all at once. It's a pretty good way to go. It gets a little bit tricky when you got like 5 colors all going at once. That can get a little bit tough, but if you can, you know, you can maybe grab 3 or, you know, 3 and 2 or something like that at the same time and kind of pour it all at once. My problem is I'm like, I don't know what's going on with 2 hands. You saw me, I had 1 hand and I was like, I can't do this without kind of getting over it and helping. I had to have like 2 hands kind of directing stuff. So, you know, just think about these different types of things, like how are you going to do it? How coordinated are you? I'm not, all that kind of stuff. So I think what we're going to do, I'm very interested after coming up with that idea about pouring. Well, yeah. I really like doing it. It's tough. These types of molds lend themselves to just pouring stuff all over the place all at once. But I got to be honest, I really want to try holding both colors and doing them like back and forth really quickly, 1 tube at a time. So I think that's what we're going to do on this one, because that, again, it just seems to make sense to me to do it that way, and it's resonating with me, right? I think that I'm probably going to be able to do that the best. So I think we're just going to do that. And I want to get this This silicone mat is just a mess. I don't like messes, guys. I don't know if you knew this. They're not my favorite things. I would usually clean that up right away. Okay, so what we're going to do is another thing that you can do. So these silicone mats work great, but in this case, when you're doing multiple things and you got messes and you don't want to have to clean them up all the time, another way to go is just like grab some cardboard or even possibly like butcher paper. It may not be thick enough for resin, but you can just grab something and stick it down. I know that this is going to be a complete mess when that stuff really sets up, but you know, like make a mess on something and then throw that away right away. That's another way to do it. But these silicone mats are great. You can, once this stuff dries, you can just peel it off. But it's causing a problem for me right now. So I'm just going to cover it up so I can put this thing down and see what kind of a mess we can make anyway. That thing's pretty long. I'm going to get a different one. Need that longer one. Okay. So in this mold, I've got these are just little metal things, whatever. I don't even know what they are, that I've cut kind of small, and I'm going to leave these in when I pour. They may be totally in the way, and that's fine. One thing I think I'm going to do is just kind of bend the tops of these things. Yeah, that didn't really help at all. Really not helping in any way. This thing is slanted, sort of. Whatever. There's two ways to do the stir method. Most people that I see pour their stuff in, and then they grab a stick, and then they stick it down in there, and maybe twist it around, or just go down and up. But you're doing it. You're moving that resin around in each time you do that. And so what I want to try, I've never seen this before. I want to stick the sticks in because I don't want to disturb it as much. I don't want to push down and then pull up. I want to just kind of pull it out in kind of a circular motion. So we're just going to leave those things in there. I think this is brilliant. I don't know. What do you guys think? I've never seen this before. Let's see here. Did I miss any? Wait, what did we miss? What happened? Did Vin Scully die? Oh man. That's horrible. Well, that just ruined my day. Yeah, these things are kind of hard to bend and whatever. It'll maybe be a little bit messy. I mean, you can kind of bend it, but I don't know that it's really helping a whole lot, you know? I don't know. Yeah, that's not too bad. Kind of got him out of the way. Okay, so final one. Like I said, we could sit here and do 50 different types of things here. All with just the same two colors and get totally different results every single time. And one thing I also do want to point out is I don't know that I would even consider my technique on that last one super awesome. So that kind of skews my results on doing the cup thing, because I kind of screwed that up a little bit. But it was interesting because I found out, you know, the streams are pouring like two different areas. They weren't kind of coming out like close to each other. So it made it really difficult for me to figure that out, which plays into my decision on how I, you know, down the road, how I want to really do these things. But I just want to mention that. I'm sure somebody else could have done that a lot better. All right, so 240. I got to write the notes down. I forgot to do that. At this point, I know what we're doing. 240. I need more resin. Luckily, I got 10 gallons of it sitting over there. All right, so number 3 is, I'm going to call it quote unquote stir the sticks in mold while I pour, and then pull out. All right, so 80 times 6, that seemed to work out. That was a pretty decent amount of resin. 480, 240 times 2. We're doing 50-50 again. Now, I'm going to pour it. So this is how I want to do it, where I'm pouring in one, I'm focusing on one tube, one hole. And I'm going to have both cups in my hand. And I'm going to go boom, boom, boom. And we're just going to kind of go back and forth quickly. And then I'm going to move on to the next one and the next one. I think that I'm going to be better at doing it that way. Okay, so 240, 240. Fuchsia. Such a terrible way to spell something. And then Sheeta. Per teaspoon. Okay, so we got our notes. Now, I'm going to pour into one hole at a time. Now, this is real wonderful for having 2 colors, but if I had 3 colors, it wouldn't be as quick. Okay, so I just want to point this out. You know, if we had like 10 colors, there's only one way to do it. You got to just kind of pick up some cups, moving them around, and you're just kind of going for it. So, you know, you may find that the easiest way for you to do this is just like haphazardly. That, you know, you may just get the best results not really following any special, you know, thing that you're doing. Just want to point all that out. Okay, so we need 240 grams of part B. Oop, there we go. All right. Yeah, cake piping, that's interesting. I don't think that I got to be honest, personally, I want to find something that's doesn't require me to buy things. You know, all you need to do is just pour resin into a hole here. What I'm trying to do, you know, you're going to get reasonably decent results doing any of this stuff. You're going to get pen blanks that look fine. My biggest thing is I'm way over critical about all this stuff because I want to get something that I can repeat every single time and get pretty much the same, you know, pretty similar results. Because I want to sell these things. I want to have a picture on my website that shows the typical blank, and they need to be pretty close to that. So I'm a little bit more critical about all this stuff and am willing to put in a lot more time to kind of hone in something. But I think most people could do anything and get pretty decent results. So it'll be kind of interesting to see what the results look like when we, you know, on Saturday, when we kind of turn up some of these. Like I said, I'm not going to turn a bunch of pens. I just want to get, you know, a few, maybe we'll just, you know, between centers or chuck up, you know, in like the drill chuck, because I don't have a collet that's larger than 3/4. So maybe just, you know, chuck something up in the drill jaws and see, you know, like turn back a couple of each one of these and see what we get. You know, I'm really curious about this. You guys all might be like, any of them. You know? Any of them will work. Now I would like to get these in the same size cup. I think it'll just be easier than trying to do 2 different cups. I am a little bit, one of my, like I was saying, I'm a little bit not very good at pouring. I gotta watch that. I'm gonna catch things on these. So, okay, what I'm gonna do here, these things are a little bit obnoxious and they don't need to be. We're gonna solve the problem of these metal things real quick here. I'm just gonna cut them off because they don't need to be that long. Much easier. What I don't want is to spill this entire thing, you know, tip it over. So, but I'm just not super, my left hand doesn't pour things super well, so any advantage I can have where, you know, it's all, both of them are fairly similar size and all that kind of stuff, weight will help me, I think. I really wish they would make 16 ounce, or I'm sorry, 20 ounce HDPE cups. Why don't they make that? Like similar to these, kind of. Maybe a little taller. Okay, so we need some fuchsia. 3/4 teaspoons. We know the recipe. We got that down. If the blanks look like a congealed train wreck, I'm guessing that you probably want to wait a little bit longer and pour a little bit smoother, kind of. Like really try and let the resin kind of not just blob down in there. That's usually what causes, and that's what I was saying, like especially at the beginning, you're pouring down into a pretty deep, you know, 6 inches deep. And so you pour some in, and then that second one, if it just drops straight down the tube, plops into it, it's just going to kind of mix together no matter what temperature, you know, you were at. So just kind of keep that in mind. There is a little bit like trying to be gentle as you pour. This is the toughest part of the vertical pouring for me, at least. Now, the last thing that I will say, I got really good, I did really good, I felt. I got pretty good results. Pouring with the mold kind of on its side. That will help eliminate that issue of things just completely bleeding together. But you're going to have like one side of the mold is going to just have this like straight line down it. So again, you're stuck with the outside of your blanks, not going to look super awesome, but the inside should be a little bit better off. Like I got pretty good results doing it that way. Reasonable. I think the biggest problem I have is like how much do you pour in each time? That's the biggest problem, because you know the first one went pretty well. Would have gone even better if they would have been just the holes were a little bit closer, I think. But like how much do you pour of each color at each time? And that's why I'm hoping that this kind of helps out with these little stir sticks. Hoping that kind of does the trick where that'll just kind of mix it up enough to where you don't have to be like dead perfect with your, you know, the right amount on every single pour. So what we're going to do on this one, we're going to pour at 120. Okay. Oh, it's 87 in the shop now. Jeez. I don't know that that matters that much, but I think we're getting pretty close probably. 118. Okay, so I'm gonna, oh, I don't have a, oh my God. I'm out of, I'm just gonna get this stir stick out of there because it's not gonna be awesome, I don't think. Okay, so we're gonna go for it, guys. We were at about 118 last time I checked. Are you watching? Well, I'm definitely hitting the hole better. You could probably pour both of these at once, but we'll see what the back and forth action does. I've been pouring a little bit more pink than white, so this last one might be mostly white. Okay, so I'm going to dump this in this cup real quick. That seemed to work better, so that temperature might have been a better job too. All right, so now here's our special trick. I'm going to kind of pull these out one at a time, and I'm just going to give it a little bit of a twisting action, and I'm hoping that this kind of works really well. Need to get some paper towels going here. Okay, that seemed to definitely go the best. I'm going to top these off. Make sure we got them full. And into the California Air Tools we go. A little bit of a mess, not a big deal. I can handle this mess. Okay. Ooh, man, I'm hungry. 2-hour stream, and all we did was 3 pours. Wow. I applaud you guys for your patience. Applaud? Is that maybe the better word? Okay, so we got it in the pressure pot. I think now we'll have to see, because again, we can't see down in, well, I wouldn't have stopped to look anyway, but we can't really see down into that mold that we just did. But I got to be honest, the 120, pouring at 120 seemed a little bit better for me. I don't think that I need to wait till 125. I think the 120 is probably a better time to start pouring. It was thick enough, but I think not, you know, by the time we got to the end, it wasn't super thick, because that's another thing, is you don't necessarily want it to be like just blobbing out like super thick either. All right, so you got to kind of find that sweet spot, and I think 120 might be kind of the sweet spot for these things. Maybe just a little bit lower. So I want to get these sticks wiped off real quick that I used to, and I really liked the stick thing. I don't know, we'll have to see, but that just felt like, it felt like those blanks were going to turn out better to me. I don't know. So I want to know though, down, you know, before we go here, if you make these, you know, pour in tubes, how do you do it? Do you guys have any other ideas? Because like I said, I don't do this very often. The only time I really pour in pipes is on the live stream, frankly. And so it's not like I have like years of practice in doing all this stuff. Now I do want to mention, so, you know, we did a few tests, and that was fine. But for me to get to the point where I'm going to be selling blanks like this and feel confident every time I pour them, I'm going to have to pour a lot of blanks to figure out, to hone in and make sure that, you know, a specific technique is actually causing the result that I think. We did 3 tests today, and I don't know that I would do like 6 blanks every single time if I was doing testing. I might only do a couple, but it does help to have a reasonable expectation of, pouring a really short blank and only one of them is not a very good test. Like, what are you going to be doing normally? Something similar to that is what you would want. But I gotta wipe off my other. Got sticks with resin melting on them, hardening. But the thing is, there could be some like outliers, so that second test, I didn't really do a very good job, I don't think. So I don't know that those results are going to be very indicative of if I did the 2-cup crush together again and did it better. I might get way better results, and the same can go for, if we get a really good looking result, I would have to do probably 3 or 4 more tests to make sure that I get similar results, So I think in the case that we just did, I don't know that doing 3 or 4 more times of just dumping them into, like we did on the first one, I don't know that we're going to find out much more in that case. But I do think, like for the swirl action, if we get really awesome looking swirls on this last one, then I would definitely want to do like 3 or 4 more batches with those sticks in, like laying in there, pour the resin in, and then do the little kind of pull it out like I did. That could be, kind of a game changer type thing. Like that could be significantly different, or not. So anyway, let's see here. Excuse me. See with Yeah, you're probably pouring too soon. Like I was saying a lot, I think it was you that said, "Oh, are you using the same resin?" And so back, when it was like January and it was 68 degrees in my shop, I was pouring at like 100 degrees for alumilite clear slow, and I was getting pretty good results. That was plenty to keep things separated. But now it's 87, and if I poured at 100 degrees, this stuff, it would just bleed everywhere. It'd be horrible. So if that's what's going on, if you're getting a lot of color bleed pouring at, like, let's say 95 or 100 degrees right now with alumilite clear slow, and it's like 100 degrees in your shop, then I'm going to guarantee that's going to be the problem. I'm going to try and get down. Man, this was maybe not a good idea. I'm just going to leave that. And this thing that I shoved down here, I thought I was going to be able to kind of pull it up kind of quick, but it's getting kind of gross. Just going to leave it. We're going to fix that tomorrow. What's the best place? You can just send me, well, I mean, I check my email for sure. Like if you just send me an email. I generally don't really keep an eye on social media message stuff. Either way, send it wherever you want though. I usually, contact form on my website is easiest. You have my email anyway, I think. Where did I get I gotta be honest, I got those sticks from the scrap bin. I don't know, my dad had them. I think you could just go to, they're just metal things. I think you can go to like a Home Depot type thing, and they got like, a bunch of different types of metal rods. Like actually, like welding rod might work. It might be the same thing. But they were just like really tiny things. One thing that I've used in the past is just 220 wire, like Romex stuff. This is just like copper, basically. And so you can bend it and do whatever you want. That's not too bad. But what I found was even that, so I don't know what gauge this is, like 14 or like 14 gauge wire or something like that. I found that to be pretty big in there, so I'm very curious to see how that really small stuff. Well, this one's actually fairly large, but I mean compared. Oh, I'm on the wrong camera, guys. So anyway, like a Romex copper wire, I've used that in the past, but it's pretty thick, right? So I'm really curious to see how does this compare. This one's actually even bigger than some of the other ones. I think, well, no, I guess not. They're about the same. But I think I'm going to get better results with the smaller one. It just kind of barely, it's at the end. So another thing to think about is it's at the end of, I started pouring at 120. I don't know what temperature it was at the end, but it was definitely thicker at that point. And so, pulling these things out, you got it, the resin's pretty thick at that point. So you don't really need a gigantic thing. It's going to move a lot of resin around. So something kind of small, there's all kinds of different stuff that you can find. Like I said, welding rod might, well, I don't know. Don't take my word on that. I don't know how big welding rod is. But yeah, you can find something like that. Oh yeah, you definitely need a thermometer. You really, if you're doing, if you're doing anything where there's colors going together or you're trying to suspend things, if you don't know what temperature it is, there's no way. Oh, yeah, time. I used to do it by time. It's not accurate enough. It's not consistently accurate because when you start the timer, there could be like a good minute of difference, like when you start the timer. And it doesn't seem like that because you're like, oh, I stirred it. But I mean, one stir is not exactly the same. You're not stirring it for exactly the same amount usually. So it's I don't think time's a very good one. Temperature doesn't lie. I mean, it's the most consistent way. The problem is though, the ambient temperature, when that changes, that's going to change your temperature that you want to pour at. Like I said, so just kind of, let's see, what's Dave saying? High wire. I don't know what that is. Filler rod. Maybe filler rod is what I was thinking of, yeah. Some sort of welding thing. I don't know. Just go down to Home Depot and ask them for like the thinnest little piece of metal that you want to stick in a pipe. Stovepipe wire, that could work too. So anyway, guys, do you have any questions or concerns before we get going today? Hopefully this was, helpful, educational for you guys. I don't know that we got any good results. Like I said, I am really not an expert at doing vertical pouring. I can talk about ideas of things that I've heard people recommend or that I've seen people do. But I can't say that I get consistently good results pouring vertically. But I want to get to that point. I really do want to convert, these pearly blanks, like the pink and white one that I sell, the black and white, the brown and white, and I'm going to be converting. So right now the mint chip and the orange and white, those I'm going to start adding. I was doing kind of color matching and stuff, not matching, but just testing. So I want to, do this with a little bit of like the white pearl. So I want to kind of expand the line of blanks that I have with, pearl colors using alumilite clear. But I just think it's a smarter way to go to start offering the vertical, tube style ones so that, you don't have to knock the corners down. So it saves me a little bit of resin. I'm not pouring the corners and having to cut them 4 times each time. And I can offer it as bespoke pen kits, or not kits, bespoke pen blanks down the road. I can, there's no difference in the technique of pouring a 6-inch blank or a 10-inch blank that way. And I really see that as like a pretty good way to go. So, it can save you some money, it can save you some time, and hopefully it's, this was kind of, worth, watching today for you guys. So let's see here. Any other questions? I don't see any questions, so I'm going to wait one more time. Before we go, again, these shirts are being sold by Easy Wood Tools to support Vets Turn. And again, that's an organization that provides, donates basically everything you need for turning, including instruction from people to combat veterans who, got injured or have PTSD or anything else. And basically what they're doing is using turning as like a sort of calming effect, as like, what's the word? I can't think of the word. I'm going to look it up. I think there's a good word here somewhere. I don't know what the word is. Yeah, that's not, I can't think of the word, guys. But anyway, it basically just kind of helps them out. It's calming, and it kind of helps them overcome the PTSD. And, you know, for folks that maybe, you know, like lost an arm or something like that, there's a guy that is one-armed turner, and he is one of the vets turn, and he's doing some amazing work right now. And again, probably wouldn't have been possible without vets turn. So this shirt, it's a pretty cool design. These are all turning tools. But Easywood Tools is making these and selling them, and they're $35 on their website, and 100% of the proceeds are going to Vets Turn. Oh goodness! Hold on. Oh, that was deleted. Okay, Michael got it. So there's a link to that. So again, you can only buy these through August 22nd. So if you want to pick this shirt up, you get a cool shirt, you help provide some turning equipment. So Easywood Tools donates tools. People get, somebody's donating lathes and everything else you need to turn. But Easywood Tools is doing the tools, so you can help, monetarily by buying this shirt and get some tools and some turning stuff going on for a combat vet who needs it. So cathartic. I can't think of the word. It's 87 degrees in the shop. I've been talking this for like 2 hours straight. My brain's gone, but please help support the Vets Turn. It's a really cool thing. So anyway, guys, I think that's about it. Therapeutic. That's the word that I was looking for. Therapeutic. Yes, therapy. That's what I need right now. So anyway, guys, I hope you have a great night tonight. These will, I'll demold these. And like I said, I'm not going to turn pens out of all these things because I just don't have time to turn all of these pens. But what we're going to do is on Saturday, I'll probably pull 2 out of each one of these, and we'll just chuck them up on the lathe, turn it back so that we can see what's going on the inside of these things and decide which one seemed to work out the best. And then I'm probably not going to do this like every week on the live stream. I'll be just doing some testing. But I thought it'd be a good thing to kind of share with you guys, to show you what kind of testing am I doing? How am I, trying to progress my skills and learn how to do this better? This is basically what I'm going to be doing. Now it's just a matter of kind of seeing the results and then doing a little bit more practicing. So anyway, guys, I think I'm going to get out of here. So again, have a great night. Big thank you to everybody that super chatted. I appreciate the support. And don't forget, all the links and stuff is down in the description for stuff we used today. And if you use my links to Turner's Warehouse, to Amazon, or to Alumilite, you're helping support the show with your purchase, because I get a little bit of a referral bonus from them on qualifying purchases. So I appreciate all that support, guys. But until next time, I think I'm going to get out of here, and I will see you guys all on Saturday. Saturday's stream is at noon Pacific time, and we'll turn these things up and see what the results are. So have a good night, guys, and I'll see you on the next stream.